Do you think Sweden is doing a better job? Here's my simple answer. Sweden might be doing a better job for Sweden. Any other country, they're probably not doing a good job because they're not another country. They are Sweden and they are different. But let's look at some evidence. Something we know about Sweden is they have a culture that's a little more trusting of each other, so they were easily going along with the restrictions that they have in place. So that's misnomer number one. Sweden does have some restrictions. They have restricted group gatherings of 50 people, so you need less than 50 people. And in fact, they are cautious in that society as well, and so it's very rare that they have groups of even 10 or 20 people or that sort of thing. So they have a culture that is different. Let's compare to the United States. And how do we make a type of comparison like this? We look at where is the United States, where is Sweden? Well, Sweden is in Europe, but it's in a particular place in Europe. Its direct neighbors, Finland and Norway. United States of America, it's almost the entire continent. Canada, right to the north, Mexico to the south. So let's look at some numbers, and let's look at the real numbers, per capita numbers. Total numbers mean nothing. So let's start with deaths per million. The United States, 204 deaths per million. Sweden, 242 deaths per million. How relevant is that? It's only relevant when you compare to the direct neighbors, the things that have the closest relationship to who you're comparing to. So the United States, a direct neighbor is Canada. They have only 94 deaths per million. So the United States has twice as many deaths as one of its direct neighbors. Sweden, 264 deaths per million. Finland and Norway, 42 and 39 deaths per million, respectively. So it looks like Sweden is about 6 times the number of deaths as its direct neighbors. Now Denmark, that's only a short boat ride, 82 deaths per million. So that's maybe 3 or 4 times as many as one of its direct neighbors. However, Sweden is also in Europe. Italy, Belgium, France, the UK, all very high death rates per million. But are those the most effective countries to compare to? And in fact, when we're comparing these things, are we actually comparing apples to oranges? And Sweden might be an apple, and the United States might be an orange. Here's another piece of evidence. As you'll see, there's some things that I put up there. A map of New York City, over 20 million residents, and Stockholm, Sweden, 1.4 million residents. Stockholm, Sweden is a very unique place. It's built on a bunch of islands, so naturally you have divisions within your densest city. And we know COVID-19 spreads in dense urban populations. And Stockholm happens to be an urban population that already has some divisions in it. Also, the population in Sweden has a very high rate of single-person households. So just the natural way they live is a little more divided from each other. 43% of households in Sweden are single occupancy households, whereas in the United States, only 27%. That's a fairly significant difference. And if you see on the chart there as well, the direct neighbors, Canada is about the same, and Mexico, actually a lot bigger group households there, and then the direct neighbors of Sweden, Finland, Norway, and Denmark as well, similar kind of pattern. So Sweden might be making a better decision for Sweden, but it probably is not the best decision for a place like America. America's a different place. 30% of the population in America very seldomly believe anything that their government tells them, and they have a very difficult time getting along with each other and agreeing with each other and coming together and having a singularly focused strategy. Whereas Sweden, they're a little more tight-knit. And so they're probably doing a reasonable job for their country, but it's hard to come up with any conclusions for any other country because they're different. And I think that's the main point here is the scientists and the governments are making decisions based on different conditions in different places. The United States as a whole, 94 residents per square mile. Sweden, 64 residents per square mile. It's different. The United States, they've done 20.9 tests per 1,000 residents. Sweden, 11.8 tests per 1,000 residents. Sweden is also going on less information. They're hoping for the best. Is that a smart strategy? Maybe for them it is. They are hoping that those natural divisions that they have in their big city like Stockholm and the single person households is going to have an effect. They have schools that are open, but not everyone is going. Not everyone is participating. So you have people voluntarily making decisions. Now, voluntarily, that's something to discuss. Maybe the United States and Canada should discuss more voluntary action. But as we see, states and provinces are slowly, one by one, changing some of the restrictions. But here's something to think about. Did we overreact in the beginning? I don't know. That is the answer. We don't know, and we will never know. Did we overreact? I'm also going to say probably overreacted just a little bit because we didn't know all of the things that were going to happen. We didn't know how frustrated, angry, desperate that some people would become as a result of shelter-in-place orders. We don't know these things. But that's the main point. We don't know these things. And we have to have a little bit of trust in each other that the more we know, the better decisions we will make. And hey, the shelter-in-place orders, they were back then. We have to live in the present. Live in the present, make decisions based on the information that you have. And my suggestion is that Sweden's data is not very helpful for the United States of America or Canada making decisions and the differences between provinces and states. They're all very different. We make decisions based on the most data, the most current data, not just one data point. The smart people have to make difficult decisions. We can help them by pointing things out, pointing out evidence, but screaming and yelling and threatening people with guns, that might make the decision a lot worse. And it might make people go with their emotions more than with their rational thinking. When you're threatened by a gun, you might want to dig in your heels a little bit. But what do I know? I'm just some guy on the internet and you're just someone at home watching. Do you think Sweden is doing a better job? Do you think they are actually getting to herd immunity quicker? Well, I did point out they're doing less tests than the United States. So they don't know. That's a pretty simple conclusion. They don't know if they're getting to herd immunity quicker. And we don't know how effective herd immunity even is at this point. We don't know. Start getting comfortable with that idea. We're not going to know a lot of things for a long time. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe.